Sweet. Fire away, guys.
Alec had the first question. I think he said.
How do you feel about your defensive tackle room?
Yeah, I think the idea behind, anytime you're going into free agency, we went into this kind of mindset of we really wanted to try to find a couple, impactful players in the front if we could. We made a run at some certain guys in free agency, but in the end, between what we were able to add on the edges and then you really kind of supplement that D-line room with a lot of different skill sets, whether it's, you're thinking about a former first-round pick in Jerry Tillery. We bring back Jonathan Bullard. HP had a great year, probably played a little bit too much for us, and we'd like to bring that snap count down a little bit. Jay Roy still coming off of what I thought was a productive rookie year, real flashes of production. But we're going to need to see, him kind of take that next step. Really, in that room, the list goes on, and then we can't forget about the draft. I think there's going to be some really impactful options potentially there throughout the depth of the draft.
The cornerbacks, what led you guys to Shaq Griffin, and how are you feeling about the depth there overall?
Yeah, he's a guy that we've had our eye on for a while, multiple times since really I came to Minnesota when he's been available. I think Shaq is kind of fits the mold of what we were looking to at least add to the room this offseason. A veteran corner that's got some length, got some physicality, can play at the line of scrimmage, and has always been a guy going back to my time in the NFC West. I just remember him being a really sticky, long corner that gave our receivers problems, and really we want to get to a place where we can play more man coverage. We want to obviously pair our pressures with some man coverage on the backside, and really, the more we can possibly add to that room to cover, if we can really looking at some of our young guys once again to kind of take that next step forward, another year of development, but getting a veteran presence in that room on the outside to go along with Byron Murphy, who now can really shift, especially in those 11 personnel worlds, nickel defense worlds, can shift back to that nickel spot, and where he's one of the better nickels in the league, in my opinion. So it's really anytime you make a move at the corner spot, you're really making a multifaceted move when you've got a guy like Byron who now can make sure he's shifting inside and being a real impact in there.
As you evaluate quarterbacks, how much did your experience going through, and obviously things were different when you came out and so forth, but how did that experience sort of shape the way that you are approaching this process with these quarterbacks?
Yeah, I think I just remember, I remember the difference between being coached for the part of the evaluation process it was, and what I was ultimately preparing myself for to try to be the best version of myself as a rookie in the NFL, which is hard. So I think I can, my hope is throughout the process, all the interactions we're able to have with these young guys is, we're clearly going to be getting a lot of information. We're going to be gathering a lot of information, but I want to be forming relationships with these guys and really starting to envision, what it's going to look like to be around each other every single day, trying to build up our organization, and that's the excitement of something like this. Is I want them to feel that, for me, I want them to feel like whether they end up being Minnesota Vikings or not, I want them all to look at it and say, man, I'd love to play for that guy. That would be a great opportunity, and I think you earn that by what we do throughout this process and making sure they know it's authentic, it's real. The Minnesota Vikings are really evaluating me as a possibility to be their long-term quarterback, and I think that's an exciting thing for both sides.
Kevin, I wanted to ask you about Van Ginkel. How, I guess, influential was Flo in that decision?
Yeah, I think Flo, obviously was a major driving force behind it, but you think back to, my last 2 times playing against him, Minnesota in 22, he was really impactful on the edge, and then go back to 2020 where he wrecked the game against us when I was with the Rams. So and he does it from from such a versatility perspective. He's on the edge, he can line up off the ball, he can drop in coverage. He's really turned into a really good rusher on those known passing downs, and I think Flo from the very beginning of free agency talked about kind of what that Swiss Army knife type feel would be after. It'd be one thing if it was year one for Flo, but now envisioning not only what we have in Josh Metellus and Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum, but the linebacker position with IP and bringing in a guy like Blake Cashman, and then knowing we've got JG on the other side, Jonathan Grenard and Gink now to really kind of pair with their skill sets. I think that's what I'm most excited about. Just the roles that we plan on having for those guys, and then how the defense can really expand because of guys' ultimate comfort in what Flo wants to be doing. So I think Gink's a huge part of how we wanted to build the whole defense, but you can't do that unless you get that skill set, especially on the edge.
Kevin, two members of the Patriots class.
Yeah, how about that?
2008 head coaches in the NFL.
Yeah.
Have you connected with Gerard Mayo about that? And what do you see from Gerard from having known him way back that makes him qualified?
Yeah, it's only two until Matthew Slater decides he wants to take either one of our jobs, and he'll probably get them. But no, I have had a chance to connect with Gerard. I think, we shared some stories, whether it was our rookie dinner that we had to figure out a way to pay for back in the day, or the different phases of throughout training camp, getting ready for the rookie entertainment that you got to do as a rookie. The list goes on and on, but what I remember the most is Gerard's leadership. In a time where he kind of spearheaded that rookie group, and you could just tell really quickly that he was not only going to be an impactful rookie, but he was going to be an impactful player in that organization for a long time. It's no surprise just watching his journey from being a captain, being a leader there, to then becoming a really valuable member of Bill's coaching staff. It's no surprise where he is now. I'm just really excited to watch him get a chance to lead that organization, and I think he's going to do it in a way that like he's done everything since he came into the NFL. He's going to do it authentic. He's going to do it the only way he knows how, which is a lot of the things that he's learned over the years, but he's going to do it in a way he's most comfortable with, and that's where his leadership traits are going to just absolutely shine, in my opinion.
Kevin, Sam Darnold's obviously got a lot of ability.
Yep.
He's got a lot of turnovers, a lot of interceptions, a lot of fumbles. Does that scare you? And what do you see that you can are you able to help him out of that and make him be more sound?
Yeah, I think, over the course of any quarterback's career, the turnover-worthy plays, the turnover plays that either end in a turnover or, luck was just on your side on that play. As a coach, you go back and you understand every single one of those tells a story. And the more and more I evaluated Sam and really looking at my evaluation, it was really a three-part process. What he was, in my opinion, coming out of USC, what his early journey in the NFL really was, and then really taking a close look at his most recent opportunities last year in San Francisco, the previous year kind of finishing up there in Carolina. And what you saw was a quarterback that, like a lot of young quarterbacks in the NFL, he was on kind of that journey, but he was improving. He was doing things to get better and more comfort and more fit. Guys played in a lot of different offenses. It's convenient sometimes for us to, hey, this guy's played in 5 or 6 offenses and had 5 or 6 coordinators. It's convenient when we want to use that sometimes, and then other times we choose not to use that. Maybe not in defense, but in a real articulate portrayal of where a guy's at in his career. My job now with Sam is just to wrap our arms around him. Myself, Wes Phillips, Josh McCown, Grant Udinsky, and we want to put him in as good of a quarterback environment as he's been in, both with the players he gets to play with, as skill players, our offensive line up front, Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler in the backfield with him. And we just want to put him in the best possible situation and then constantly challenge him to kind of chase improvement and see where that gets him. It's really easy with narratives and people decide and they make up their minds on really what you are as a player, but we haven't got a chance to coach him yet. So we're excited about that opportunity and excited where Sam's going to go.
Hey Kevin, how did things sort of come together with Andrew Van Ginkel? I know going back to his home region played a role in his decision.
Yeah, I think Flo's background with him, and obviously a lot of our coach, a lot of my offensive coaches and myself on the offensive side have had some trouble playing against Gink over the past few years, and I think just the versatility of what he means to our team and what really it means for Flo. You know, their history together is one thing, but Flo has built something unique, kind of one of one here in Minnesota, and I'm excited to see him use Gink and kind of where that takes us, in addition to guys, like other versatile pieces, Josh Metellus, Harrison Smith, the linebackers we signed, and then obviously JG on the other side of him.
Kevin, without revealing too much, you guys have obviously sort of maneuvered up the board a little bit here, acquiring the other first round pick, and there's been some talk about quarterbacks. Obviously, you don't kind of control that, right? Could be the second guy, could be the third guy. Do you have to feel comfortable with multiple guys if you're going to move up in that direction?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is going through a thorough kind of process, really, diving in on the fact that you want to get to know. You got to figure out where that stops, because you don't want to. You don't want to spread yourself too thin to where you or your coaches or Kwesi and his staff don't have a great feel for really the part of the draft we're looking to possibly add a quarterback in. But I think we've come up with a really good plan as far as how we're going to evaluate these prospects, how we're going to get in front of them, really figure out what they're all about, and then when that process is over, whether we've had a chance to move up or not already, or we're still in the process of trying to do that, or maybe we love where we're at as far as how we see the board. But I think the key is the information and kind of what we talked about, building some relationships with these guys. So, we're excited about multiple opportunities, and I just think it happens to be a kind of a draft that we're pretty excited about as far as the depth of kind of how the top of the quarterback situation looks. So, pretty exciting times.
Hey, Kevin, what's up?
Hey, I'm not going to get up and hug you,
okay.
but
yeah,
what you don't know is we've already had 2 hugs this week.
We're already out hugged.
I will give you a half hug.
Okay, that sounds good.
It's good to see you, Chris.
I have a running back question.
Times have changed, I guess.
Yeah. Last year there was all this talk, and it still continues, about running backs being devalued. Obviously, you guys didn't bring back Dalvin Cook. Those guys had a podcast, all that kind of stuff. But then this year, you guys signed Aaron Jones. How do you look at that? Are running backs being devalued? Is this just a cyclical thing, or how do you kind of look at that whole scenario? Of not paying running backs some teams?
I think it's team-to-team philosophy. It's what your current situation is in the room. I think there has proven to be some really impactful guys you can add to that position room at different times in the draft. I think about how we added Ty Chandler when we did, and just you're able to with how the depth chart sometimes looks and guys' versatility, you're able to add different kind of pieces to maybe fit your offense with how you want to build that. But I do think it's gone a little far, because there's still really, really impactful positions. I mean, when you talk to Justin Jefferson and you tell him, we brought Aaron Jones aboard, his first reaction is he's shocked, because he didn't think it would even be possible for us to bring a guy like that, who we play 2 times a year and have flat out felt his impact on a lot of football games. So I think it's gone to a place where it's probably gone a little bit too far, and I know we benefited from the opportunity to add a player like Aaron. There were some other really impactful players available in this free agency, across the whole league, and really the dynamic of offense has really shifted with some of the additions at that position. So if that's happening, and it really is a shift for an offense to add a player, that's an impact. That's an impactful player, and what the value is on all that, that tends to be a little bit confusing to me at times, and I let Kwesi and the guys figure that out. But I know the impact of the type of player we added to our team in Aaron, for sure.
Yeah, and a quick quarterback question. Sean Payton came out and said yesterday they had a private workout, J.J. McCarthy. You guys have been linked to McCarthy. You're obviously one notch ahead of Denver in the draft. You feel at all you and Denver are jockeying for position to try to get McCarthy or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of really, really interesting quarterbacks to take a look at. Guys that had great college careers, guys that maybe different from a landscape of their journey throughout college, but in the end, some really exciting guys to study and evaluate. And I think there's probably multiple teams that are all looking to add a player to position, and how you do that, where you do that, is going to be all part of the fun of what the draft's all about. But I know how impactful and important this time is going to be for our organization, and really looking forward to continuing that process of evaluating those guys really as soon as we leave here.
Kevin, getting to the defensive line, you guys had a lot of sets last year where you had like one defensive lineman on the field or none. Do you think that was just Flo kind of just doing his thing? Was that like a philosophical thing you'll keep on, or how do you?
I think ideally, ideally we'd like to continue to evolve what we do defensively, Kevin. But a couple of those times I remember it was just a sheer matter of how well DJ Wanham and Pat Jones and Daniil were obviously playing, and we wanted to try to get as many impactful players on the field as we possibly could. And then, what I loved most is when Flo would, kind of be versatile with the personnel. I'm always challenging the guys. It's great to have that initial look, but what are teams going to do against you that you're going to need to really combat? And that's where I think some of our pressure audibles and checks and things that the players have ownership of to kind of, in real time kind of be a security system of sorts to protect you from some of the things people are going to try to do offensively. I know talking to a lot of the, guys that I've built relationships with around this room, from an offensive play caller perspective, there's very few people in this room happy, that I went out and brought Flo to Minnesota. And I remember talking, I think, this time last year and saying that was my hope, and watching really what he did with that group last year, and then really looking at what Kwesi, through that collaboration with Flo and myself have really added to our defense, and will continue through the draft. I'm excited to see what he builds in year 2.
Kevin, you mentioned some of the things that are changing on defense. How much did Flo, I guess, drive that process in terms of the guys you're going to go target in the way that's?
Yeah, the way I look at it then is it was really just kind of identifying. I remember meeting with Flo very, very early in the offseason and just kind of sitting down, taking a look at the landscape. There were some players that we weren't able to bring back that we wanted to bring back, and we knew that the market that they had built for themselves based upon the production, guys like Daniil and DJ and even Jordan Hicks, guys that we really did value. But what happens is you look at it from a standpoint of if we could be potentially losing a couple guys, tough, smart, kind of our kind of guys that love playing football. We got to at least start there in what we're adding once the process does begin, and we're either able to get those guys back or not able to get those guys back. So him and I kind of sat down and tried to identify the traits and the characteristics of the positions we wanted to add, whether it's versatility in Andrew Van Ginkel, that pass rush juice to really just impact and change the game in JG, some speed and some really impactful play at the second level with Blake Cashman next to IP. We really feel good about that combination. And then you continue to kind of look at the landscape of what we're able to bring back off of a defense that really flashed some high-level production at times, and then what we're able to continue to add while also I think the development of certain players that I know I've challenged the coaching staff. I want to try to find the best possible avenues to develop some of these players, young guys we've brought into this organization, either in 22 or 23, in addition to what we continue to try to do from a draft and free agency standpoint. And what that looks like can continue to be an evolving process all the way up really throughout the rest of the spring.
Kevin, a little bit random question, but there's certain things in contracts that players are prohibited from doing. They don't want to skydiving or something ridiculous like that, right? But just there's other things that aren't, just sort of gray areas. Have you ever encountered a situation, or have you ever had discussions with players about be smart, whatever? I don't know what it would even be. Like, come up at all?
I think you have to, just because that is, there's been some examples, of guys, maybe getting an injury, and sometimes it's taking part in one of those reckless activities. Sometimes it's not. But that whole non-football injury world, that NFI world, it's the last thing you want to see as a coach, because you know how impactful this game is already on guys' bodies, and everything we do in Minnesota is try to help them better, put them in the best possible situations. We got the best sports performance group in the entire NFL. So when things like that happen away from the game, it's really impactful. So we try to educate them and make sure they just know It's a little different for me. I tried to use that clause to get out of my dancing at my own wedding, but it didn't necessarily work, and I was able to make it through without any injury. But it is something that we do talk to our guys and kind of think about a lot, because it's so impactful on their careers, and the financial aspect is what it is.
I don't think that's in the contract. Thank you.
How important was keeping Harrison around? And you've talked glowingly about him.
Yeah, from my perspective, guys, like, you think about guys like Kirk Cousins and Jordan Hicks and Daniil Hunter, and even going back to year one with Adam Thielen and Eric Kendricks and Dalvin Cook. I mean, I know sometimes people get a little tired of hearing me talk about culture or talk about the relationships that do matter, but when you come in and you try to build something, I am personally invested in all those guys, and they then, I do feel strongly about their impact and their imprint on our team. So we just named quite a few names that have had really shaped a lot of what has become something we're really proud of in that locker room and in our building. And those guys have every bit of, should get every bit of the credit of that, along with some of our younger players and kind of the nucleus of our team. But Harrison Smith is a guy to me who probably doesn't get enough credit for his leadership ability and his impact on me, his impact on Flo, and kind of how our relationships have really grown. He's one of my favorite players I've ever been around. I think he's a perfect fit in Brian's defense from a standpoint of being kind of a beacon of communication, the impact, getting him back around the line of scrimmage to be impactful, both in the run and the pass game. And I think Minnesota Vikings fans, the idea of getting to hear them absolutely go berserk for number 22 running out of the tunnel again, and however long Harrison wants to play, look, I want him playing on the football team that I'm coaching, just because of his impact that we all see on the grass, but there's just so much more than that to me. And like I said, I don't think he gets enough credit for the human, for what he is for the Twin Cities. And then his willingness to, once he decided he wanted to play football again, there was zero wavering as far as the fact that he wanted to be a Viking because of the things we've talked about, what we've built there, but also he loves Minnesota. He loves our fans. He loves playing at US Bank Stadium. Really, really cool to see him come back. And
where do you think he is?
No.
I think he is physically. He had the game in Carolina,
yep.
And then he talked about wanting to be an impact type player. And there's some games where it's more than others. But where do you kind of think he is at his age?
I think the depth, Kevin, of our safety position with Cam and Josh kind of leading that room with Harrison, and then the young players we have in that room, we're not going to be able to play him, as much as we did. That was kind of really, you highlight guys like Harrison Phillips, Harrison Smith, Jordan Hicks. You think about even Bull, up front. You think about just how many snaps they actually had to play. That's where we're trying to not just be better from a standpoint of, the overall landscape of the starting group, but it's the depth, the depth up front, the depth in the second level. Use the depth of that safety group that we feel really strong about, top to bottom there. And but I do think we're going to have to be really smart, and I think we've found a nice sweet spot how we get Harrison prepared without, taxing him too much, that Sundays become too much as they stack one upon the other throughout the season. So that's where we'll lean on Tyler, Josh Hanks, those guys to make sure that we get Harry to the game. And we know between the years there's nobody better in the NFL as far as preparing. How do I do my job to make sure he's prepared physically each and every week? And it's going to be something that only Harrison truly knows what it's going to take to get through in the end, and we expect him to do it, but we've got to do our part as coaches as well.
Kevin, I'm from Denver.
Yep.
Are you conscious in Denver? It seems like jockeying back and forth. You guys in Denver, 11 and 12 in the draft.
Yeah.
You guys went at it for Sam Darnold a little bit. Are you conscious of them here in the next few weeks as far as trying to figure out, for the quarterback market there in the draft?
Absolutely. You have to be. You got to know. Part of the draft is understanding. I've used this term before, but other teams sometimes have to be complicit in your plans, and you're talking about the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton as the head coach, George Payton. I know they're the type of staff they have there. There's some great evaluators of talent, so we know if we feel strongly about the type of players that we're looking at and we're evaluating, they probably are feeling similar, and so we got to understand that is part of it. We're going to have to compete in ways to add players at all positions to our team. Starts with the evaluation process, and as we come through that, start heading towards the end of April, we're going to have to be aware of what's going on around us, in front of us, behind us, and that's not just in the first round of the draft. That's throughout the entire thing, and how the landscape of the depth at different positions is impacted. For example, by what we could see as a high volume of offensive players at the top of the draft. What does that mean for the middle, not only the middle of round one and the end of round one, but where you can maybe find some great value kind of on that second day in rounds 2 and 3.
Is part of the quarterback evaluation trying to find the processing field vision? Is that the tough?
Yeah, it's so hard to in a lot of ways, just because there's some guys with an incredible amount of production, but when you really study it, what translates to 3rd and 7 in the NFL? What translates to the type of passing offense that we want to be from a standpoint of what we want to build to? Make no mistake about it, there's going to have to be a transition period. I would like to think we'll continue to be a top 5 or 6 passing offense, just getting out of bed in the morning, but that's just not the reality of the NFL and how competitive it is. So what I'm really looking forward to is building and evolving and kind of building an offensive system for production, for moving the football, possessing the football, coming off of where we were last year from a turnover standpoint, and how that evaluation process of these guys, Alec, kind of fits in the mold. It's just trying to see those flashes. It's trying to see feet, eyes, footwork, rhythm, balance, base in their fundamentals, and then take a look at that guy, kind of seeing coverage, saying yes and no to throws, anticipating windows. You got to dive in on that. You got to, when you see it, you have to be ready to kind of try to find more of it. I like to ask the players about those plays. Hey, take me through your thought process, and really allow them to start building rapport with me of what it's going to be like when they come to Minnesota. I think that's the best way to coach the position, and where you can get guys to maximize their skill sets.
Kevin, Danielle Hunter, and how do you feel about getting Jonathan Grenard and also Blake Cashman?
Yeah, Danielle, incredibly productive last year for us, and it was great seeing him become a first-time captain after a pretty extensive, impactful career in Minnesota. I really have so many positive feelings towards Danielle. I know D'Amico and that system with a pretty talented pass rusher on the other side. My expectation is that Danielle's going to have a huge impact down there in Houston. We do have to play him, so we're going to have a heck of a protection plan when we take on those guys. But as far as bringing JG, really Jonathan Grenard and Blake Cashman off that Houston defense. Shaq Griffin was there as well at one point. We just feel like it's easy to see some traits that maybe D'Amico really valued, as far as guys that love football. They can't wait to get to Minnesota, be a part of our culture, our locker room, and then the physical skill sets. These guys flat out fly around the football field, play really, really hard, snap after snap after snap, and their impact's really felt.
What makes Justin Jefferson so special?
You know what? I think the things that really you evaluate when you're looking at a young player, even just talking about the draft. We spend so much time talking about 40 times. We spend so much time talking about short shuttles and what do the routes look like. How many balls did they catch? How many balls did they drop? The hard thing for a lot of people to evaluate is something called body control, and the ability to play full speed, whatever your top speed is, whatever your speed is, to challenge somebody covering you across from you, but to do all those things with full body control and playing in balance. And that's really what body control is all about. And so when you watch Justin, you can see him do things that just other guys cannot do from a standpoint of running, whether it's a short, intermediate, or longer route. His ability to do things explosive, full speed, but with total control of every facet of his body as he goes to then go attack the football in the air. And then that's the other part of it. I think there's very few guys in this league when the ball goes up, as long as there's not too many people around him, we expect him to make the play. It happens to be most times when we break the huddle, there's about 3 defenders aware of where he is and how they're going to defend him. I equate it to, kind of a triangle and tube defense in basketball, but those 2 guys are really trying to cover Justin, and the other 3 guys are just kind of standing there worrying about how they're going to eventually have to cover Justin is kind of how it feels sometimes. But love coaching him, love being around him. He continues to get better. He loves my favorite part about him is the competitor in him, the fire in him to want to be so great at what he does. And it's been a joy for really 2 years getting to be around him. Can't wait to get going again this year.
Kevin, you guys, sorry.
Do you involve him at all in the quarterback decisions?
Yeah, I've said this before, but I think it's important, as impactful as Justin is, not only on our offense, our organization, but it makes no sense for me to talk about the communication and the relationships I've built with a lot of our players, all of our players, and then not at least engage with our guys throughout this process, because you don't want them to feel like they're not involved and they're just showing up to kind of whatever team we've put together. That sounds great, excuse me, on paper, but I think sorry, hopefully I didn't get you right there. But I think the important part is Justin feels a part of the process, engaging with us, engaging with me, and he's aware of kind of not only our short-term but our long-term part of our plans for organization. Why? Because he's part of both of those things as well. So excited to continue that with him throughout this offseason.
Kevin, thank you. After giving up assets to acquire number 23,
yep.
Just curious what your guys' appetite is to give up more assets to maybe get, let's say number 3 in the draft.
Yeah, I can't remember who's got that pick, but
I pulled one out of the hat.
Yeah, no, I think what that trade really allowed us to do was have flexibility to do a lot of things. Anytime you have 2 first-round picks in a draft, that's a positive. Contractually with the 5th-year option and all those things, but also looking at this draft from a standpoint of the quarterback depth, of the defensive depth. We did add a receiver who we feel really, really good about pairing with Justin Jefferson last year. We feel really strongly about our offensive skill group. There happens to be some really good receivers in this draft that are going to get drafted. We feel good about our tackle position, for example. That happens to be a really good position in the draft. So anytime that happens, and you could be picking at 11 and 23, great. You got a chance for some real positions of value to your team to kind of come to you. But yeah, the quarterback landscape of kind of what has become the standard of moving up. There's examples of what that looks like. Having first-round picks is a real positive thing, but I do think that there is value of 2 first-round picks, not only in the same draft but in this draft. At least the way I'm evaluating the draft, and Kwesi and our staff, we feel like that people are going to be looking at 2 first-round picks in this draft as something that may be of greater value than maybe your just standard 1 first round a year, and however many that takes to go ahead and get a trade like what needs to happen to get up there in a draft like that done.
I was also curious, Rich McKay has mentioned a couple times that league-wide scoring has been down.
Yeah.
And he's mentioned that maybe there's been more too high shell safety.
Yeah.
As a play caller, what are your thoughts on that? Are you seeing that more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about even, my travel from LA for 2 years where we were with Brandon Staley and Raheem kind of running that, 2-shell defense, and we were very successful with it, won a Super Bowl with it. We come to Minnesota, and I wanted to run that defense in Minnesota. Why? Because the original intent was to, find ways to deceptively cause the quarterback to really play post-snap to try to figure out what the coverage was, but then also the ability to put a roof over everything and not allow the ball to get thrown over your head. And I think there's still a lot of elements around our league of that taking place, but there's also a facet of trying to affect the quarterback at a maximum pace, a maximum level, and I think that's what defense is, whether it's ours in Minnesota with Brian Flores now, who I couldn't be more excited about, or just defenses around the league, how you go about confusing but also impacting the quarterback and what his job is on game day to go do throwing the football. But I do think it plays into it. I think it's become a passing league, but it's also become a completion league. The volume completions of maybe being extensions of the run game, different things, but a lot of times with a high completion type of offense, the clock's running. You know, you're seeing it in games that we've had. Shoot, 7-8 minutes go by, and a team drives for a 12-play drive for a field goal, but that's still time that our offense is sitting over on the sideline. That's still time that we can't kind of dictate in the game. So I think it's all ball control and then finishing. I think red zone defense is on a whole different level than what it's been, just with the type of skill sets and body types and length that defenses have, both in the front and the secondary. And then what that really looks like when you get down into a condensed space at the 5-yard line. There's a lot of big, athletic, talented people down there, and you're trying to find a way to punch it in. It's the difference between 4 and 3 has become massive in our league for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.